Welcome back to the Baron's Chest, where we dive into history's boldest and strangest tales. Today's story takes us to the First World War and follows the only German prisoner of war who ever managed to escape captivity in Britain and make it back home. His name was Günther Plüschow, and his journey from China to Germany would take him across half the globe, through storms, prisons, and 5 failed escape attempts before success. Our story begins in late 1914 at the German colony of Tsingtao on the Chinese coast. When Japan and Britain declared war on Germany, they besieged this outpost. At the time, Plüschow was the colony's only active pilot, flying a fragile Etrich Taube monoplane. He scouted enemy positions, carried dispatches, and even claimed to have shot down a Japanese farm biplane using nothing more than a pistol. But as the siege collapsed in November 1914, Plüschow was ordered to escape with the governor's last dispatches. He flew 250 kilometers inland before crash landing in a rice paddy, torching the aircraft to prevent capture. Alone, and now Germany's only hope of carrying the colony's final reports, he began a journey on foot through China. Disguised with forged papers from a sympathetic Chinese official, Plüschow worked his way through inland China to Shanghai. There, friends gave him a new identity and a Swiss passport. He boarded a ship through Japan, across the Pacific, landing eventually in San Francisco and then New York. It was January 1915. America was still neutral, but New York was a hotbed of spies, informants, and Allied agents. Plüschow kept his head down, avoiding the German consulate, and secured passage on a neutral Italian ship bound for Europe. His luck ran out at Gibraltar, where British authorities searched the ship, discovered his papers, and identified him as the Aviator of Tsingtao. Now a prized prisoner, Plüschow was sent to Donington Hall, an old country estate in Leicestershire converted into an officers' camp. The estate offered relatively civilized conditions: rolling lawns, a mess hall, and rooms instead of cells. But Plüschow was restless. While other prisoners played chess and waited out the war, he plotted escape. On July 4th, 1915, under cover of a storm, Plüschow scaled the double barbed wire fences and slipped into the darkness. The alarm was raised, and within hours, Scotland Yard was warning Londoners to be on the lookout for a German officer with a dragon tattoo on his left arm. Newspapers mocked the hunt, and even Punch magazine ran cartoons about the mysterious tattooed fugitive. What most don't know is that Plüschow spent days wandering London after his escape. He disguised himself as a dock worker, even strolling the streets, visiting museums, and reportedly taking souvenir photographs of himself at the docks, all while Scotland Yard plastered his description across the city. But his eyes were on the Thames River. If he could reach a Dutch ship, he could cross into neutral Holland. Over the next week, he made 5 separate attempts, each one nearly ending in disaster. He tried to reach the Dutch steamer Mecklenburg by swimming to a dinghy, but sank into mud and barely survived. He targeted the Princess Juliana, but the current dragged him downstream, unconscious, before he crawled ashore. He actually stole a leaky boat, only to sink in mud as the tide fell. He stumbled past a guard, pretending to be drunk. He climbed into 5 dinghies during the day, but none had oars, forcing him back to hiding. At last, on the night of July 10th, 1915, luck turned. He spotted a fisherman distracted with his sweetheart, stole his dinghy, rowed past a military bridge, collided with an anchor chain, and hid in the reeds until midnight. Then, like a cat, he climbed the anchor cable of the Princess Juliana and stowed away. When the ship reached Vlissingen, Holland, he slipped ashore. He was free. On July 13th, 1915, just 9 days after fleeing Donington Hall, Plüschow crossed into Germany. At first, he was arrested as a suspected spy. No one believed the wild story of his escape. But once identified, he was celebrated as a hero, the dragon tattoo fugitive, and the only German prisoner to ever escape Britain and make it home in either World War. Plüschow was promoted, decorated, and given command duties back home. He married in 1916, fittingly in an aircraft hangar, and after the war, he turned to exploration. With engineer Ernst Dreblow, he shipped a small seaplane to Patagonia and became the first to film Tierra del Fuego, Torres del Paine, and the Darwin Range from the air. His 1929 book, Silber Condor über Feuerland, Silver Condor over Tierra del Fuego, brought him fame as an explorer as well as an aviator. Sadly, in January 1931, while filming over Lago Argentino, Plüschow and Dreblow crashed. Both were killed instantly. He was just 44 years old. From the siege of Tsingtao to the rivers of London, Plüschow's story remains unmatched. A tale of grit, luck, and daring. He was the only German POW to escape Britain and make it home. A man who defied two empires and lived to tell the tale. This is the Baron's Chest, where forgotten legends come back to life. If you enjoyed this story and want more incredible escapes and hidden history, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what's coming next.